Hello, everybody. What's up? Again, back, Coach Kev's True Crime. Um, Couple different things we want to cover tonight. Getting a little wider with our talking about things, especially psychology, serial killer type stuff, that type of stuff. But we'll get to that shortly. How about the weekend of football? Football fans out there, NFL was great. The weekend started kind of with a blowout and kind of ended with one, but everything in between was fantastic. Uh, so that was exciting. Good weekend for that. Back at work tomorrow. Who knows what can happen? Luckily, I work with a group of salty, miserable, really good firemen who are fun to be around. And we'll see what tomorrow brings. So I wanted to get something on the air tonight. I haven't talked to you guys in a while, a couple days. Uh, One of the things I was talking about, and the story is going to be the end of the story later, is about radios and stuff like that and technology. I was talking to somebody off of here about FLIR technology in one of the Delphi searches, and we use FLIR technology. Not if not every day, every other day at work. Our cameras, that's the technology that we use. We can see through walls, various things like that, to see if there's heat, fire, anything behind it, hot wires. I've looked for people in the woods before, looked for discharged weapons, guns that were shot and thrown. Uh, Learning a lot about body temperature dropping, which sometimes doesn't start for 2 to 3 hours. I mean, you're talking only a degree an hour for quite a while. So I learned a lot about that. We'll digress into that one of these times. But someone asked me about the FLIR technology, and it's really cool. Uh, what the drones use and what we use are pretty similar as far as the signature goes and what you could pick up in the degrees and things like that. Obviously, if you're closer up with a bigger screen, I think that you're going to get a little better picture of things. But I could be wrong about that. Anyways, yeah, but there's a good radio stories. We were talking about technology and stuff that we have. We used to only have one radio in the truck, and the senior guy got to keep it most times. But my story at the end will be the times that didn't happen. So we'll get to that. Updates. Delphi case staying in Carroll County. Jury's going to move. From the stuff that I read, the people that I've talked to, and things that I read on different platforms, that's what most of the legal beagles thought from what I saw. So the family witnesses aren't inconvenienced. The jury is, yeah, and whatever. At this point, cost, who cares? Uh, so it sounds like that's the right thing. I mean, as far as I could tell, uh, got to give the guy a fair shake. You want this to be right. Make sure it goes down right. This is the right person, or maybe there's more coming. I don't know. I really don't. The more you find out about that case, the more I think I know less. But we'll get to that more of that later. I know updates from Flora officially. No, hasn't been for quite some time. People were sending me some really good information about Flora, a lot of newspaper stuff, all the public information stuff that I didn't have, or didn't see, or didn't read, or anything like that before. So keep that coming. All that's good. All the pieces matter, and I appreciate all that. People were sending me stuff from other fires. Uh, Related or unrelated to Flora. Just ask me what I think, this or that. Very hard to say from like a newspaper article. Uh, Certain things stand out. Certain people talk a certain way in law enforcement and the fire service, and sometimes you can pick things up, kind of what they're leaning towards or what they're saying. Electrical does cause a lot of fires for various reasons. Sometimes things, too much stuff's plugged in. The electrical appliance itself is being misused, i.e., space heater covered up, something like that. We see a lot of that. Unfortunately, a lot of people around here might not have gas. They might lose gas for a month or two during the year because they can't pay it. So do other things to heat their house, and not always the safest. One of them is I don't know if this is done anywhere else. This might be revolutionary to people, but I call it the McKeesport brick. So we were at a house one time, and it was an apartment. It was a big house split in two. It used to be a one family house. Now it's not uncommon to split it in two or to four. But this was split in two. Big house, one of our main streets, and the neighbor was getting CO readings on their meter. Meter was going off. So we check. Yeah, there's some CO. Oh, geez. Why do we keep doing that? What happened? Sorry about that. This computer goofs off on me every so often. Anyways, we're reading the CO levels, and we have some. So we got a neighbor's apartment. So the neighbor loses their gas, and it was bizarre because they only cut one side off. Usually they cut it off, but the gas meter was split, so they were able to just to take one side off. So they took the one side off. So this person lost their gas. So they had electric still. So they put a brick in the electric oven, and they took multiple street bricks, red street bricks, and they took them out and they had them sitting around the different rooms and stuff like that. And I asked, I don't understand, what are you doing this for? It just releases heat slowly over time. That brick's porous; it'll suck in that heat. And so they had them sitting on the burners and sitting inside the oven. So, okay, that's the McKeesport brick. But the CO wasn't coming from there, obviously, because they didn't have gas going to the house. It was coming from the neighbor. We found out something different, something down low we didn't expect. But hey, needless to say, there's different ways to heat your house, and if you lose your gas, you just got to be safe. I don't know. We see a lot of bad things happen though. People with generators and stuff, and they're not vented properly, and just bad things. So just be careful, especially if you enter a garage with a car running it. Make sure that firewall and that door is rated properly. You're not getting any kind of heat on the other side, and gas meters and not gas meters, but carbon monoxide meters nearby. Okay. Anyways, thanks for the great information. Keep coming back with it. I'm getting all kind of stuff all over the board, stuff I can use, stuff I can't, but I appreciate all of it. A lot of stuff, like I said, newspaper articles and stuff like that, that helps. It really does help. So even if it isn't something that maybe you don't think matters, or hey, maybe it's connected, maybe it isn't, it's interesting for me to read what other people do, other departments, their tactics, how things are investigated. So moving forward, when I put my thumbnail up today, I wanted to talk about initially what kind of brought me into the realm of everything here, and it was learning about serial killers and killers from the past and what they did, and really the psychological angle, what made them this way. Is that people are born? I don't believe that they're born killers. Jim Clemente has a really good quote about, and I always screw it up. I should have wrote it down, but I didn't. About the way that you're born, the way that your experiences and genetic, everything kind of mixing together, making it one thing. And if any of those things would have veered your direction or the right way, you wouldn't became what you became. But everything's kind of lined up in like a tragedy of errors, really, in these people's lives. And a lot of the things that you see, a lot of them were as juveniles fire setters. So we kind of bridge this into Flora. This was kind of where I got, obviously what I do for a living, and then bridging it into Flora. What causes that? And it's a power thing. We find out it's a power thing. Next time or within the next few days, I'm going to put a nice slideshow together. I have a lot of good quotes and things that we were taught when we went to school. And I have very little arson training, probably only maybe 32 hours of arson training. And in the arson book, that's not a lot at all. So, I detect stuff a lot of times that it's very, very obvious. I'm not saying that Flora was like that or any of the cases that we talk about are like that, but there's a lot of times where it's like, yeah, this is clearly what happened. But then there's times where people do a really good job, and that's look at your offender level, where they were young, they were old, they were experienced. If someone goes to the gas station across the street from the house, fills up a plastic gas can, figures out how to light it on fire, throws it in the front porch, walks away, and in the process of walking away drops their phone. That's not a very experienced offender, or low IQ, maybe on some kind of drug or narcotic. Those are all things that make them kind of dumb. If the guy's really experienced, he does different things where you can make it look like it was electrical fire, make it look like it was this or that. And then they're harder to catch. And just like people that actually do serial killing, the more that they go on, they leave more of a record of their work, if you would, and that you can look at and figure out maybe what they're doing or maybe who they were. But they also get better at what they do. They make their the taking of the victim working better. Just everything, the killing the after, whatever it is that they're doing, their MO. It may fine tune it a little bit. It may be kind of sporadic early on, and then really get down to something. And unfortunately, a lot of times the investigators that look into this stuff need another body. And they don't want to come out and say that, but every time that they kill, that they're closer to getting caught, in my opinion. You can look at anybody and say that. I think the ones that we caught, because the ones that we haven't, we don't know about. We don't know who they are. Sometimes we know, but that's another story. But anyways, I got into it from the old angle. Then I started researching new stuff, current cases, which I'm like, wow, this is really wild. I have some local cases eventually here moving up in the spring. I'm going to start covering and talking about, and hopefully getting out there. But let's get this Flora. Let's get to talk about Flora out there. Let's really push that case. But anyways, how I got to things in the body language, big time body language panel is a great YouTube channel. Several different guys with a lot of different real world experience, collegiate experience, different things like that. Working with heads of states, Army Rangers, interrogators from all over. And it's awesome because we talk about that. And if you go back to the Delphi press conference, it's something that just immediately stood out to me like unbelievably. It was the one where they were it was the new angle. Was it the new angle? It was the one where the FBI guy came on and he had the beard. It might have been actually the very first one. Yeah, you know what? It was the very first one because it's the one where the former mayor is in it, and everyone that you've seen the videos where he's acting really bizarre, and yeah, he's acting really bizarre. I have nothing on him past that. I don't know. It was weird. Whatever, but I haven't seen anything pointing his way. If you have something, send it to me. But I got nothing for him. Maybe that was the first time he heard the details of anything, and it really freaked him out because he was like the mayor, and he felt kind of responsible. And a good mayor would feel responsible. I know we've had several guys, and again, a guy now that when stuff happens, they feel responsible, and that's important. So that part, but the video anyway. By that, we hate to call it that. And everyone's standing there, and here comes the FBI guy with the beard, planned or unplanned the beard. I don't know. He didn't grow the beard overnight. It was a real beard. And everyone has their subtle colors on their uniforms, or if they have a suit, it's a dark suit, it's a detective suit. We're not bunked from the wire here, or anything like that. If there's any Wire fans, and here he comes in his off color, his lighter suit, and he stands out like a sore thumb. And I think that 100% is by design. That he wants the attention, and they assume the killer's, watching, even though this wasn't the press conference that was 2 years later when they actually said maybe in the room. They assumed that he followed this, so he wanted that attention, and I think that he got it. So little things like that. I've talked to a lot of people. Do you think what Carter says is scripted? Yeah, I do. I really do. I believe it is. Not all of it. The Shaq thing, I don't know what that means, but yeah, I don't think he just threw that in there. I really don't. I don't. I mean, and if he did, I think that, Lesenby was behind him, or there would have been other people like, making faces and, oh, what the hell did he just say? What's he talking about? And I didn't see any of that. So to me, that was all kind of expected. Now, I don't know that for sure. That's my theory. A lot of books that I really got into, all the John Douglas books, Mindhunter. Mindhunter, by the way, watching it now, getting into it with my girlfriend, watching it. I've seen it several times. A lot of it's filmed in my hometown, McKeesport. I think it's episode 3 in the first season when they're at the police station. I think it's San Jose, and they take the tire off the car. That's actually our old Daily News building. In season 2, when they're in Atlanta doing interviews during the water when it's raining, we actually supplied the water for that. They had like a sprinkler type machine, and one of our guys went up with an engine and hooked up to our hydrant, and he supplied water to their sprinkler that they were shooting that day. They were doing interviews in the houses, and that was supposed to be Atlanta, and it was actually his town outside of Pittsburgh in the summertime. So I don't know. Some similarities end there, because they beat us in the playoffs in '92 back when I was a Pirate fan. But moving along, so and one of these days, really the Atlanta child murders, and I'm a huge John Douglas fan, and he thought he really nailed it with with old Wayne down there, but I don't know. he not all of them. He even admitted that it wasn't all of them. So that's a tell for another day. The Atlanta child murders or something that just so much was involved in it. So much politically. New airport. It was insanity. But hopefully we get to that at some point. We can't be everywhere at once. Zodiac big into him or them or whatever happened there because I don't know. Not to quote Carmine Lupertossi Jr. Whatever happened there, but the more I learn about the Zodiac, the less I learn. It's kind of like Delphi, but good books there. The Chaos book about Manson, man, we have episodes about him. We can really go rounds on that whole thing too. Gone by the Dark, HBO documentary and book. Michelle McNamara was fantastic about Golden State. How however you slice it, a podcaster, a YouTuber, not necessarily a YouTuber, but a podcaster, writer, true crime writer helped catch a serial killer to what that dated back, to the, decades, several decades. Former police officer, DeAngelis out there in California. So again, the body language really is interesting to me. Different things like that. BTK, Richard Ramirez, kind of MO-less MO, if that makes sense to you. Yeah, he would kill the guy and then try to have his way with whatever was left, women, children. Ramirez, in a later interview, I talked to a guy named Nicholas Schreck, who's a different guy. He's not everyone's cup of tea. I'm not saying he's mine, but he's a different guy. He had a lot of conversations with Manson, and he would talk to Richard Ramirez a lot. And he said Ramirez said during that time he was just every day he was drugged out. And Shrek said, "Well, would you not have killed people?" He said, "Oh, no, I would have killed people. I might have killed that many or at that rate or have accelerated that rate because everything accelerated. His usage, everything he was doing just accelerated." And that, kind of horrified the city. And it was also interesting that another guy, the Unsolved No More, Ken Main, great guy, very, very like his guy, kind of tattoos, my kind of dude, looks like there's more hair than me, so I'm a little jealous. I had a guy on that was used to be next to Richard Ramirez on death row. He was a prison inmate. He's still in prison. I don't think he's on death row. And he said the first day he went out on the yard, Ramirez, I'm Richard Ramirez, and within minutes they almost killed him. And he said he would have been dead, but the guy was was kind of a not experienced con. And he said, we don't mess with the serial killer stuff here. And he said something to me that just stood out to me in the interview. And he said, we commit God's honest crimes. And God's honest crimes. Paradox, how many words can you use for that? That's interesting, right? But he said, we never killed anyone unless it was in a commission of a crime. And what he said was, if I was robbing a bank and, one of my partners said, here, hold this gun so I can do blah, blah, blah to this person over here that didn't involve getting the money from the bank. He said, I'd take the guy's gun and then I'd shoot him because he doesn't deserve to live, and the criminal code is bizarre. But anyways, this guy who scared, a state in a region for, that month, 16-month or whatever period it was. And he couldn't walk alone in jail. He would walk past guys' cells and they would just stand at, and just, go like this. And he would, and cower. And he said he was like very feminine attributes, like he acted. And bizarrely enough, he was able to keep all the crime scene pictures because he was able to help in his own defense. So this guy said these serial killers have these pictures of all their crime scenes, pictures that they didn't take, pictures that the police took, because they're allowed to help in their own defense. And what they do is they put them in albums, and there's really no way to stop that. So bizarre, absolutely bizarreness. But this inmate, after he didn't say this, so to speak, but I think he kind of postured maybe in a way, or this is how I took it. Maybe they let him have this stuff to like, hey, just here, just stay in your cell and don't be a hindrance to us, and we'll give you this your crap that you want to look at. I don't know. But as far as the legalese goes, they're allowed to have that. And I found that very interesting too. So, you hear from people like, that are in there and they think they could tell you the most. The Mind Hunter guys, that's how they got to know everything. They went out and they actually talked to the people. So they interviewed these former killers. They were some were very open, some of them lied, some wouldn't shut up. Some of them, they had to act like they, felt a certain way, or, oh, goodness gracious. We did it again. They act like a certain way to get information out of them, but, it worked out, and they compiled volumes of data that's still compiled today. So that's how they figure a lot of this out. Anyways, uh, yeah, the fire setting thing, in youth, they talk about there's the McDonald triad, or the McDonald homicidal triad. We talked about before: fire setting, cruelty to animals, uresis. Uh, yeah, it's not like cut and dry. Like, I think it used to be more cut and dry, where some people argue for it, some argue against it. Apparently, with his research, he looked kind of like a one home in one swath of patients at one place, and they all kind of had the same attributes. So it was hard to expand that. But what I found out about that is, yeah, the fire setting, yeah, the cruelty to animals, or even like dolls of maybe not theirs necessarily, but someone else's, especially a female, younger sister, even older sister, or doing things like that would be involved in what they, I think, talk about today. In the uresis, or the bedwetting, it's not uncommon, for a lot of kids at young ages. What they worry about is kids that were potty trained that now fall back and begin doing that, or past the age of 12. That's kind of a big thing now, that they talk about past the age of 12. Uh, you know, uh, where that number exactly came from, I'm not sure, but I know it's a really big deal if they go back and regress. And talking about serial killers here, I had some stuff I wanted to upload, but as usual, I kind of goofed on that. But there was a symposium, and this was back in 2014. Mueller was still the head of the FBI then, and they basically talked about all kind of different things. And you could look it up if you look up FBI symposium on serial killers. There's tons of documents, and this is what the guys in the know talked about. These are the guys that are actively involved in cases, the psychologists, all the people involved, the statisticians, everybody. And what they came up with was, in combination, the various ideas, they talked this to death pretty much. And this is what they came up with. This is what they crafted, as they said, would be the easiest way to kind of say, hey, this is a serial killer. The unlawful killing of two or more victims by the same offender or offenders in separate events. And they kept it to that, and they kept it simple. So I know there's time and dates. Some people 3 in a month or whatever it was. So anyways, that's that. Now you have a spree type killer. A spree type killer is someone that maybe, let's say that they're robbing a bank, that they kill someone in the bank and they take a hostage, and now they're running out. Hey, Dave, how are you? And they're running out of the bank. And on the way out the bank, they shoot other people, and then their spree might last 10 minutes, or their spree might last 2 weeks. But as far as that period goes, they're on the run. They're not looking to go back to their life and go back to work and act like nothing happened, because everyone knows who they are, like a Bonnie and Clyde type. The mass murderers, the people that go in, and shoot up places for whatever reason is that they have in their demented heads, like a mass murderer type, your school shooters, there's any public places, stuff like that, the people that do it in churches. So there's a lot of different things to be covered there. I always kind of focused. Most interesting to me was like the personal serial killers, the people that do things up close and personal, because that takes a lot. They're not playing God. Arsonists, we'll talk here. Arsonists aren't that type of up close and personal. They're kind of watching from a distance and playing God. I don't know that it's that dissimilar from the snipers that they have, talk about playing God, although I'm not that sure about that, because they do go back and watch. And we talked about before, David Berkowitz, son of Sam, lit hundreds of fires. He had a nickname of the Pyro or something. They called him in juvie because he lit so much stuff on fire, and he got so just off on the action from it. But a lot of other guys too would just randomly light fires. And where does that come from? I don't know. A lot of it's some kind of abuse as a child. A lot of it's linked back to that. And different things, your mom, everything comes back to your mom's like The Sopranos. And the more I hear, the more I see talk about people. Yeah, some of these people have had dads that abused them, or maybe or took off, or things like that. But that relationship with mom, that rejection, it's luckily for me, I never had that, so I can't tell you what that's like. But it's just so bizarre the way that people turn out to me, and so interesting. And the fire setting. And again, if you have an arsonist, let's say you have a professional arsonist, or even an arsonist that does it to get off, and he comes back and watches the firemen do their work and see what happens, they're going to eventually have an MO that they like. And a lot of that MO is a time control. Maybe it's a device. Maybe they know, if I can light this, it's going to take, 2 to 5 minutes maybe for people could see smoke coming out of this house. And I know that from the point I light it, or I'm going to be able to get out of that house. And in 2 to 5 minutes, I'll be from here. We actually, knock on wood, we don't see a lot of like incendiary, I would say, mechanical devices like bombs or things like that. Arsons are done sometimes by youth. Sometimes people can't sell their property, but they're just, you see a lot of trailers. What trailers are what if they would pour a liquid throughout the house and light it on fire, and then it kind of follows it around, not like you think it would, depending on what kind of accelerant you do. But you could see that a lot, especially if it's a failed arson. I mean, it's very clear, because that stuff, especially unless it's like a black or really, really dark blue or dark brown carpet, you're able to see that pretty easy. And then they'll bring the dogs in, and the dogs will hit that trailer. It'll follow it all the way through. Even after stuff burns, stuff's left behind. That's one of the things that as I was reading about, arsons, a lot of people I didn't realize outside the fire service thought you're going to burn something away. There could always be some kind of residue left. Absolutely, for sure. It could be left on anything. I think it could be left to human beings even, but furniture, floor, the ceiling, any type of stuff like that. So anyways, couple of different reasons that people do what they do with the arsons and with the fire setting. And I have a couple numbers here that I will eventually, like I said, put into our little thing that we have coming up. So the types of arson and motives. Okay, this was listed. This is from the FBI, where I get a lot of my statistics. Number one, pyromania. Okay, 10%. And these are just numbers. These aren't numbered in order. I shouldn't even read the numbers, because there's just how they numbered them. Pyromania, 10%. Pyromania, guy, I have to light stuff on fire. I have to light shit on fire. I don't know. Whatever reason, it's usually linked back to some childhood trauma. Crazy, insane. And it's like, there's a legal term, psychotic, that they just have to do it. And they'll get caught a lot, because they're like the lunatic killer that runs down the street, with blood all over him and a hatchet in his hand. He's not the organized killer. This guy's a psychotic psychopath. So that's kind of what that is. 10.1% revenge, 52.9% revenge. So more than half of the arson fires are for revenge. Revenge. What kind of revenge? Any kind of revenge. Lover scorn, drug beat, money issue, business going wrong. I don't know. It could be for anything. I don't know. Maybe like a racial issue. As we investigate what we're investigating right now. Absolutely possible. That's absolutely possible. So any kind of just listed revenge, doesn't get to it. Vandalism, 12.3%. Vandalism is, we see quite a lot of that here. You have some kids that are just, bored or out doing what they're doing, and they light maybe something on fire. Maybe they light a fire in a house, messing around, and it catches the house on fire. I don't necessarily mean to do it. Maybe they mean to do it. They don't want to hurt anybody. They know no one's inside the house, but they just think, hey, I'll light this house on fire. And a lot of times the kids that do that, they take off. They don't want to come back. They'll hear about what happened or whatever, but they're not going to be there and like, oh, hey, like the pyromaniac, or like the people with mental illnesses or different things. Insurance fraud. I was surprised. There's only 6.55% insurance fraud. Welfare fraud, 6.55%. I don't really know what that means. Welfare fraud's fire. What are you lighting documents? I don't know. The psycho fire setter, 8.7%. So the pyromania and the psycho fire setter are listed as two different things here. I don't know. That you have to explain that one to me, because I'm gonna have to get into those statistics. What's the differences? But anyways, almost 20% of these are lit by pyromania / psycho fire setters. I don't know. It almost sounds like a definition of pyromania to me. Maybe I'm wrong. And number 7, crime concealment, 3%. I thought crime concealment would be a lot higher than 3%. Crime concealment is maybe, you kill somebody and you think, well, I'm gonna burn the whole house down. I won't be able to find anything. Who knows? Well, one of the things they'll know is if they died before the fire happened, before the smoke or flames got to them. They'll look at their lungs and see if they ingested any flames or any of the stuff, the chemicals that burn now, hydrogen cyanide, the stuff in your couch, couch cushion, light it on fire. The carcinogens and the chemicals that can kill you inside of there are absolutely phenomenal. Different than 20 years ago. 20 years ago was different than 20 years before that. In the 70s, stuff was made a lot different and from a lot more natural materials. And this stuff's made so cheap now, and it's shit. It doesn't last long. And when it catches on fire, man, it goes up like a tinderbox. Believe me, we see that a lot. Puts off that black, brown, nasty, bad smoke. The smoke that'll drop you to your knees, whether you got a pack on or not. Okay, so again, different there. Moving on now, we'll talk about Flora for a little bit here. Again, nothing new about Flora officially. Hoping to bridge some things there possibly, with me and, other people like me. We'll see what we can do. A lot of information, like I said, has been coming in. Tons of public stuff, and I love that. The newspaper articles. There's pictures in newspaper. Sometimes that helps. I haven't get any video yet from any fires or anything like that. But looking forward to stuff. And keep sending it in here. Dave got something here. There we go. Just like you and I, if you pay attention closely, you may have different. Yeah. And who was I just talking to? It may have been a guy at work where we were talking about, serial type killers, and said, oh yeah, the crazy people that run down the street with the hatchet. Yeah, those people are pretty messed up. I don't run into any of them if I don't have to, but at least I could identify them immediately. And, like Dave just said, your neighbors, and there's always people that come out, even with the Richard Allen thing, and he's not convicted yet. We had no idea, the sheriff, he was so helpful, stuff like that. So those are, to me, the scariest, your sociopaths, the people that could just go through life. But they always seem to break down. Ted Bundy, great example. Ted Bundy, to me, organized killer all the way through till he got to Florida, till Chi Omega. Chi Omega, no, he didn't bring a weapon. He grabbed a piece of lumber outside and just went absolutely berserk in there. After he went berserk in there, went, very close to it and attempted another. And he was going to get caught. He wasn't what he was before. So eventually these guys freak out. They could be organized. They can do this, or, an Ed Kemper that turns himself in. They don't go on forever. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like they do. Although the Golden State Killer may argue to differ. All the neighbors said he was a real jack-off to them. But that doesn't mean you're an old man. It's a jack-off. Doesn't mean you're a serial killer. But, he was able to stop. And, man, it's just so bizarre to me that these guys there was something at one point, and as they get to the edge, maybe Bundy was on the run. Maybe that had something to do with it too. You know what I mean? Where D'Angelo never had to be on the run. So don't like to interact with others. Yeah, that's true too. And they'll, like with Bundy, he will interact with you, and he'll interact with people, but there's always a purpose. It isn't like, hey, I'm going to go, here, hang out. I'm sitting home lonely. They're more than happy to sit at home lonely, and they'll do their interaction. Ed Kemper, go drink with the cops. He didn't feel right. He always felt weird, but him and the cops are down there having beers and drinking, and he's finding out what they know, and kind of laughing to himself like, that's what you guys think. You know what I mean? So that whole thing, it's the irrational, like almost irrational egos that they have about themselves. And where do they come from? I mean, some of these kids were beaten. They were adopted, never knew their parents, treated like horrible shit their whole lives. And they have this inflated, crazy ego of themselves. And how does that even happen? And that's not saying it's not always a bad thing. If kids that are grown up like that, if they all have good egos, that would be great. But how do they launch from one extreme to the other? Mind-boggling to me. That's the part of it. You try to understand, and then from understanding everything, that from there you're looking forward, and then that's where you get with the profiling. But the profiling end comes in where you're able to predict, you certainly can predict future behavior. Like those guys will tell you, don't pick a guy and then put the profile against them, or lady, and put the profile against them, but go ahead and you could maybe eliminate people because you're looking for this type of person. Yeah, he has a family. Yeah, he has this. Yeah. Yeah. Anything you can do, Dave. I'm looking. To be honest with you, I'm happy just to be talking and getting the word out here. I hope it comes. If it does, I guess I could do a little more pushing out social media wise. A couple people told me to do that, so I'll look to do that. Yeah, well, absolutely. That's crime for you, though, Dave. That's what everybody does. If you ever were a Sopranos fan, I'm a huge Sopranos fan. I'll probably quote them. I don't even know if I probably quoted them already here. They talk about that too. The golden age of the mafia was at a certain time. Now they could do everything. They could listen to this. So now we have to take this step. You have to take this step. And the true crime genre, that's one of the reasons that I'm not as versed in the Idaho killings and Koberger, but is this a new thing that can happen, that people from the true crime community or that are actually getting doctorates in it turn and do this to see if they get away with it? Or I just have a feeling at some point he's going to come out and he's going to spill the beans. I think it was very telling that the one district attorney from Pennsylvania, across the state from me, but in my home state, said that one of the reasons that Koberger did not fight extradition was because he wanted to read the probable cause immediately. So he thought that I'll waive this because I can't wait to read that. So like soon as we cross into Idaho, whether it's on an airplane or whether it's in a car, however they go to America, give me that. I need to know what you know, because that's a power thing. I know what happened. I know what I did. If he's the guy that did it, now I need to know how much of that you know. So I could say, oh, I'm still smarter than you, or I could say, oh shit, they do know. Well, thank you. I hope that I do. Like I said, the fire end from experience for sure. Everything profiling, serial killing stuff, self-taught, if you could say that. But I don't know. It's just it's. I've always been into like the powers of the mind and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just so very, very, so very interesting to me, all this. And then you get into, we start talking about the arsonists, the mindsets they have. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with them. They have their mindset. They have their reasoning for doing it. Even the people that do professional, I call professional, those are people who do it for money. They're still getting off on a certain level with getting away and being smarter than everybody. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the thing with Koberger that's being alleged. And before, we don't see everything, but the Bundy thing, yeah. Now the knife and stuff like that, Bundy was a strangler, a rope guy. But when you first look at him, he looks just like him. So how do you not say Ted Bundy? And then he's into true crime, and then he's in the Northwest, and I don't know if it's considered the actual fraternity house, but house with college kids. So yeah, how do you not draw the comparison? Multiple other YouTubers have, and I think it's very interesting. And again, the Rick Allen and Koberger, both when they have their letters, or Allen wrote a letter, Koberger put a statement out through his attorney, I'll be vindicated or whatever it was. Neither guy says they're not guilty. Neither. If I'm writing that letter, I'm writing the one page giant, I didn't do this shit. Help me out. Why aren't they doing that? Neither of them did that. That doesn't mean they're guilty, but you know what I mean? You don't have to be a Clemente or a Douglas or a wrestler to see that something is wrong with that. Something is fundamentally wrong with that. if I ever get arrested, knock on wood, I don't for something I didn't do, I'm going to scream the whole way and not disrespectful to cops. I didn't do this shit. What are you talking? No, tell me where I was. Take this DNA. What do you want? Hair? Good luck. You know what I mean? Whatever you need, take it. So I don't know, but I find that very interesting. And then, what else is really interesting is the people that write, that read the handwriting, the analysis. I know some people, oh, it's bullshit, this and that. But the more I look into it, I don't think it's bullshit. I think it's real, and I think it's incredibly interesting. Then you analyze your own handwriting and see how crazy you are. And sometimes it's crazier than you thought, and sometimes it's less crazy than you thought. But fascinating, absolutely fascinating. But they've been using these tools to catch killers for a long time. So, why can't we, adapt it or try to kind of like figure it out or see what we can do? And again, anytime I tell people this, they send me stuff, and they send me some wild stuff. And I'm like, have you sent this to LE, to the cops? And most of it's Flora. Have you sent this to Indiana State Police? No. Well, I think you should. And if you don't, I'm going to. If you don't want me to tell you where I got it from, but yeah, but they need to have it too, because again, they always know a little bit more than everybody else does. Bundy didn't. Yeah, but I believe you're right too. And if the laws were the same at the same time, and then Bundy was almost a lawyer, wasn't quite a lawyer. He was almost a lawyer. He thought he probably would have been a good lawyer, like the judge said. But he had to have control over a little bit to something, and he had control over that. He had to see what they had. Unlike Florida, when he come out the elevator and that sheriff down there with his cowboy boots and his dark slick back hair and his really nice suit, handsome gentleman. Hey, Ted, and he boom, reading it out, and Bundy kind of paced back and forth. And think about that. I know it worked out for the state of Florida, but this guy just escaped twice. There's a row of reporters. He's not handcuffed. He's not shackled. Nothing. And there's this sheriff. He got his Sunday best on, the hair, goodness, it was hilarious. And he's pacing back and forth. Let me read that. And no one's doing anything. Now, what could he have done? Could he have gotten? No, he probably wouldn't have gotten out of there. And Bundy was not the type. He's not going to attack a group, especially of men. He's not going to attack a group of men, for sure. But I just thought it was a different time. Wow. Now you see these guys and they're shackled and they're worried about other people killing them too. I understand, but yeah, if you ever watch that's a very interesting thing. Very interesting thing. Yeah, Bundy, absolutely control freak. If you watch the Bundy tapes thing on Netflix too, Dave, it's so compelling. It's so funny how, let's say it wasn't you. Let's say you were the killer. What would you have done? Oh, well, if it was me, then I would have, yeah. Absolutely fascinating. So good stuff there, Dave. I think you're right on pace with things like that. Very interesting to hear them talking their words too, especially the guys that like to talk. And they're not proud of it. I don't think they feel proud of it, but they feel like I'm going to explain to you why I did what I did. Ed Kemper explained to you why I killed. He's going to explain to you why I cut my mom's head off. I'm going to explain to you why I did X, Y, and Z, and you're going to understand. Well, we don't understand, but if we can use that. Oops, sorry about that. I don't know if it's an internet thing or whatever it was. If we could use that information to help catch people or prevent other people, yeah. Manson, yeah. We're having an episode about Manson, Dave, because there's a lot about Manson, but control-wise, absolutely he was. And he had like the little like Napoleon syndrome because he was such a tiny guy. And that scene in Mindhunter, from what I've researched, I could tell it's true, where Kemper and Manson kind of had a little like, and Kemper made the comment to, I don't know if it was Wrestler. I think it was actually Wrestler that admitted that he made the comment. I have to find that. Don't quote me on that. Don't misquote the great Bob Wrestler. But where Ed Kemper said that you try not to stare at Manson. He's a little shorter than you think. And of course, Kemper's 6'9" and Manson's like 5'3". So, I mean, you have, Muggsy Bogues taking the ball in and trying to dunk on someone. 6'9". He's Kevin Durant, 7 foot, but almost like a Kevin Durant. Think about that. That has to be hilarious. Add to that, Manson's probably, I don't know, a $120, wet and wearing boots, and Ed Kemper's built like former NFL football player Jackie Slater or something like that. So it'd be interesting, but they're all very aware of each other. That's something else that's bizarre to me. They're very aware. They talk. If you watch the Night Stalker documentary that was on Netflix, he knew the Goomba, as they called him, Detective Salerno. Oh, I know who you are. I know who you are. Yeah. Done a lot on Manson. Let me ask you, Dave, have you read the Chaos book? Or if you have read it, what's your opinion on it? Usually everyone that's read it has one of two opinions on it. They either love it or they hate it. I just was interested if you have. But you have to understand, I'm coming into like the Manson thing from that book. That's kind of what brought me into looking at everything. So I'm on the other side of the looking glass from everybody else, I'm sure. But I just wondered if you've read it or not. I think it's a very good book. It leaves a lot of questions, though. It doesn't really answer everything. Anyways, moving forward. Anything else you have? I love to read and I love to go through stuff. I found out through this process, I'm a really good researcher. I collect cards too. So I found I'm really good at finding price values and things like that. So I really enjoy the research. I enjoy the data gathering and kind of bringing it all together. So the idea with Flora, that's kind of what I've talked to other people about through messages and through emails, is we could get like a central clearinghouse for everybody. I'm trying to get a lot more guys, people in the fire service, guys and women interested in this story, because every time I tell them what happens, they don't believe me. And I said, it's good that you don't believe me, because now that you have to go read it and look it up yourself, what happened here, especially the moving of the bodies gets people, because everyone instantly is like, what happened? And it's not been able to be explained to me from anybody. I have a couple things that I'm probably going to send in to Ellie, a couple things that I put together from various pieces from people sent. These were public information pieces that I'm getting, that I was able to look at a couple things and be like, hold on a second, man. Like, what? I might not be right when I get to C, but I know that A and B are wrong. Okay. And just, I'm not trying to tell people what to do or how to do their job. I would never try to do that. I'm definitely not no cop, for sure. But I could see that this is not lining up. And were you aware of this? Maybe they weren't. They don't have, the local police departments and, even Indiana State Police to a certain extent. This isn't like TV where there's 100 agents coming and, and then obviously Flora does not have the resources that Delphi has. Dave, just getting into it now. Unfortunately, there is no shortage of cases that are active now that are going. So I'm a big fan of old stuff, but I think it's very important now. Maybe one of us can find one little thing that can help something. But the more people to do it, I think it's more likely that that's going to happen. So I'm just getting into that now, Dave. Truth Justice, how are you? Yeah, I don't know if 7 o'clock was a little early for people tonight, but I just came up with that time arbitrarily. I don't know when anyone else goes on. I have people that I enjoy to watch. So I'm not, if I went on at a certain time, hello, Truth Justice. If I went on a certain time and someone else goes on, I'm very dumb to that fact. So maybe I shouldn't be, but I am. Okay. Everyone keep reaching out, keep doing what you're doing. Also, any other cases from Carroll County, because again, as I've talked to other people, for whatever reason, there's a lot of Department of Homeland Security data that we send that's collected at different fire departments. We do it. Like I said, emergency reporting, firehouse software. There's other things like that where basically they get a national total of all the incidents, figure out if there's pockets, like the percentage of like 400% increase of minor deaths in Carroll County. That's the last statistics we got. You could search Indiana, you could find every county on there except for Carroll, and I've looked at everyone. And when you open up the dialogue box, they're not there. I don't know what that means. I have theories. I've seen it in other situations and I know what's happened, but that's in a different state. So I'm not going to come out and say, hey, I think this is what's going on because I don't know. But what's going on? You have these high fire rates. You have these really weird fires. You have, people making comments about gravel lots across the street. You have a darn pizza place right there. What's going on? It's like what exactly is happening? So it's too much for it to be nothing. Not pointing fingers at anybody. Maybe it's just honest mistakes that were covered up, but there has to be some kind of resolution to this. And if you covered it up, you covered up the death of 4 little girls. And I don't care who you were trying to make good or who your buddies are or who you were doing it for. It's bullshit. You cover up for your buddy on I don't know, cheating on his taxes or something. I don't know, I probably shouldn't even say that. I might get flagged for something like that. I have a good accountant. I never cheated my taxes or something stupid like that. Hey, the cop, hey, was your buddy speeding? No, he wasn't speeding. Oh, yeah. Power goes out and you're playing a poker machine. Hey, I had 200 on it. Yeah, he had 200 on it. Not here. Not here. This is not the time to do that. So, oh, Boogie Down, how are you? The pizza place is, I just through research and just keeps coming up from like all kind of different stuff. And there's never anything that I could fingerprint or point down or say this or that. I have no idea exactly what it is. But if you keep like looking at stuff and looking over here and looking over here, this is brought up, this is brought up, this is brought up. So it's brought up a bunch of different times at a bunch of different places. Was anyone working there? What was going on? What was happening? Did anything have anything to do with anything else? Was there a link there between any of the girls from Flora and any of the girls from anything else? Just kind of a little bit bizarre. So, anything that we have or anything, like I said, people could send me stuff because I really don't know. I'm just getting into, the X's and O's at the pizza place, whether, who owns it, who does this or who does that. And it may be absolutely nothing. It may just be a coincidental place. It may be in town at like a central intersecting location. We have places, our town's a lot bigger, but there's places like that where people would congregate because it's just like a central section. People were going from point A to point B. Maybe there isn't many pizza places in town. Maybe it's a good pizza place. I don't know, but it's weird that he mentions that area. I think that Doug wants to tell us more than he can, but he can't. For whatever reason. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. And there's a lot of people been like, hey, look at Moscow, Idaho, look at Delphi. They gave up information, blah, blah, blah. It's apples and oranges, in my opinion. But I think Moscow has done a pretty good job. So. Okay. No, people knew the honor. Well, again, that's still something that I'm just trying to get into and seeing what's up. And that's another place too. Cameras, as far as the fire floor goes, what was all there? What was in that area? Hopefully, I assume that was all collected. Whether they had traffic cams back then, whether they do now, I don't know. I don't know if they have money for that. We got a lot of those. We're a higher crime area. A lot of it comes from grant money. Do they have that? If they do, and they could pinpoint times and cars and vehicles and things like that, has all that stuff been done? And if you could say, yeah, that's all been done, or no, we don't have that evidence. Okay, well, if you don't have those public cameras, how about people? Did you go house to house and talk to everybody? Maybe it's too late now. But did you go within a X block radius and say, hey, do we have cameras? What do we see? Did anyone see anything? Did anyone see a vehicle? Do you have a camera? Can we look? We know what time we're looking at. If we could see a camera and we could see vehicle traveling, boom, 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 we could put it here. We could add that together. We could put that together 2 miles down the road. And now we see that vehicle there, so we know it went that way. And some of these now, the ones that we have, they can scan your license plate. They can scan a bumper sticker or something on your window. And that's really how they get to it. So, yeah. Talk about cameras not working. Yeah, these cameras, they've been the champion and the enemy of so many things. You think camera, you think the Delphi thing, the marathon camera. Was there a camera there? Did it get destroyed? Was the camera? Well, do they have the tape? And did they just say that it got destroyed to give someone a? It's crazy. We don't know. But with cameras now, there's so many times, there's so many instances, not just with fires, but with shootings and stuff like that we have in town or crimes. There's always something on camera. First thing we look at a fire, we can tell it's definitely an arson. We had one last year where a guy poured gasoline all over a car. I mean, outside of the car. He didn't even try. Boom, the street was on fire. Gasoline's running down the street. And they started catching the house on fire. It was absolutely clear that this was an arson. We smelled gasoline from 2 blocks away. Gasoline was running down the street on fire from the car. So this guy made absolutely no attempt to try to hide what he did. Something like that, we turn over to the county. But what I think what they would have done is in an instant like that, whether there was someone really young or someone that was really pissed off and really infuriated, maybe a love triangle or someone stole something from someone else or who knows what, I would have looked at all the local gas stations. I don't think that person would have been smart enough to go across the river or somewhere else. He probably filled that gas up somewhere local, went from the gas station right to the scene of the crime, and did what he did. And we immediately start looking around who has cameras in this area, because in cameras, you're going to be able to see what happened, where it was. Luckily, there was snow and there was prints where they walked to, and they didn't live that far away. So they did go local they didn't find the camera, but they admitted that they walked to the local gas station, which was a couple blocks away, got the gas and did what they did. So, yeah, but stuff like that, believe me, I'm not out trying to crack crime all day here where I live at, but, certain times, yeah, you could kind of think stuff and you could see, maybe what people had in mind and, be a little bit out of order. Same faces everywhere. Yeah, I think that a lot of the people that do that are good people because there isn't enough people to do what they do. But the oversight needs to be split up. It can't be 1 or 2 people that are in charge of everything. Yeah, I mean, you would 100% think that 2016, that's nearly 7 years ago, not even 7 years ago, just over 6 years ago, that there had to be cameras and had to be a lot of them. And you would think that that'd be something that they instantly want to do. They instantly go get the cameras. Now, I will say this. If the local police didn't go get those cameras right away and didn't look at them, the data might be lost. Yeah. Yeah, we have that here too, Boogie. My town's a lot bigger. But I can imagine even a smaller town like that. Yeah, that has to be, it's like a soap opera every day. Yeah, Dave is right. Arsons are very tough to crack. Arsons, a lot of times you literally have to catch the guy with the material, whatever he's going to burn in a lighter, or cameras. Now you catch people on cameras, and I've seen people show people the video on camera. Not seen it, but we showed him the video, and he gave it up because clearly it was him. Unless there's a string of arsons and you could put things together and say, hey, we have a weird material here that's being used. And here we have this guy that we've seen it. Someone has his truck. Same kind of truck's been in 3 of these scenes. And there's this weird material here. We find the guy that owns this truck. He works at this chemical place. And that's the only place that, one of the only places in the area that has this chemical. And then you can start doing stuff like that and piecing it together. But most of the time you have to catch them in the act. Or they're confronted and break down, especially people that burn their own stuff down. They'll get confronted and break down. So definitely tough to crack. Yeah, the peer review. Yeah, well, the arson investigators, if I have it right, Boogie, the arson investigators or investigator knew, not the initial guy, the people that were competent, that knew what they were doing, said, whoa, wait a minute here. We need to get something here. We need to figure this out. But the peer review, I don't know that everything that the Indianapolis Fire Department got was everything that they needed to get or everything that they should have got. Let me just say it that way. I don't know if they had the right information to really do a really good peer review. But yeah, absolutely. It was hard. Doug Carter says that. Doug Carter said that, it was definitely an arson, but he did not think it was done to kill the girls. Well, that's a motive thing, but in a court of law, it doesn't matter. You lit that fire to kill these girls. You're a murderer. Don't care why you did it. Makes no difference. This is what happened. You know what I mean? So you can't say, well, you know what? I was really in a bad mood, so I fired a gunshot off in the air. Or it's midnight on New Year's Eve, and I don't understand the laws of physics, so I'm going to shoot a bullet up in the air. And let's say the bullet comes down and it hits someone 10 feet away and kills them. They trace it back to your gun. You killed that person. You're a murderer. You might not be smart, but stupidity is not a defense against murder. It's a defense against just about anything else in this country, but it's not a defense against that. So, yeah. Trying to keep up with everybody here. I'm going to be closing us down shortly here. Independent, we talked about that. Yeah. The more I'm finding about Florida, the more it's like, wow, man, like a weird, I don't know, like a return to Salem's Lot type situation there. I don't know. I don't know small town America that well. Dave, we were talking about the ATF too. I don't know about the ATF. I haven't been able to find anything that I'm not saying that they never looked at it, but they are not actively involved now as far as I can tell. Hopefully they're doing something in the background. But I think one of the things we can do is scream for them, like, ATF, come, man, like, come do this. Here's the information. We know that you know. Lean on who you got to lean on. Do whatever you got to do, and just cut through the shit. We don't have local politics here. We don't care. They don't know. The guy from the ATF doesn't know who the town council of Flora. They don't care. 4 girls got killed. This is what happened, and this is where we're coming. This is what we think happened. Yeah, well, the arson dogs again. That's it. That's depends on a lot of different things. Whose dogs were they? What kind of dogs were they? Were they? As I'm learning, as I don't know a lot about when we come with our arson people, they're specific dogs. They'll use dogs for arson. Maybe this dog's for accelerant and bombs. This dog's for drugs. There are a lot of different things. The information to give into the fire. I read that too from the whistleblower letter too. Without getting a lot of the information that we can't get, and just the public information that we have, I don't know. I don't see a lot of documented stuff for what happened there. I would think a report would be multiple pages long. Even the fire report, the narrative of the fire report would be multiple pages long, explaining multiple actions, explaining why they did what they did. I didn't see that when I saw the available documents that are publicly available. Yeah, there's something there, and I don't know what piece has to fall here, but something has to happen, and I don't know what they're waiting for. I really don't. Hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully we can really, yeah. Yeah, like the motive might help us find who did it, help find them who did it, but that really doesn't matter because they lit the fire and they killed those girls. So they're going to go down for they're going to get charged with murder. I don't know what the statute in Indiana would be, but 4 counts of it, 100%. And anyone else that covered up for it has to be, I know they don't have like the California law. And for California, for being as like hippie as they are, they have a murder law that. So let's say that there's 4 guys, 3 of them sit in a car. One guy goes in and kills somebody. He comes back out. He gives each of the guy one thing to get rid of. They each throw a shirt away, a gun away, and a pair of pants. Throw them away in different dumpsters. This guy gets caught. He squeals on his friends. They're all charged with the same count that the guy that went in and killed the person is charged with. Whatever it was, first degree, they're all charged with that. Now, I know Indiana doesn't have that that exact law, but, you know, you have the what Allen's charged with, you know, that. So was it another crime being committed? And if it was another crime being committed, was it a felony? Was it an insurance scam? I don't think that would have been a felony. I don't think it would have been enough. It would have been like an ethnic intimidation, a federal civil rights violation. Maybe that's a different story. I don't know. But until we could get to the bottom of this, and again, the motive takes us to who did it, but the motive doesn't matter. They started a fire and they killed people. They killed 4 little girls. And they'll come back. Yeah, Monticello. There's so much going on there. And again, it keeps guys sending me everything because I just keep going through it. And I have a lot of episodes that I have to have. I have probably 7 or 8 that I really, really want to do. And there's focus on one thing in them 7 or 8 episodes. So once I figure I do a few of these at the beginning here and kind of tell you what I'm about, why I'm here. And obviously, you know, Flora is going to be bread and butter. Delphi is going to be bread and butter. Certain serial killers I'll talk about and things that I learned from them, not directly, of course, but, you know, things like that. But then we'll really get into like deep dive episodes, and we'll spend a lot of time on Flora. And again, keep sending me everything you have because I really, really enjoy meeting new people. I've met people from all over this country, a couple of people from England, some from South Africa. People I don't even know where they're from, and that's fine. And they could be from anywhere, but they all are coming from the right place. I think they have good hearts. You have a good heart, you're all right with me. You're cool with Coach Kev. So I thank for everybody for the comments. This could be a crime. Yeah, I read initially there was something that the NAACP showed up. I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously not the guy that's going to be critical of anything that they do because I could be sympathetic, and I grew up where I grew up, and I'm really, I look at people in 2022 and 2023 that look at people with different skin color and think different things about them. And it's like the war's over. Get new parts for your head, man. Like it's science. Don't get mad. Be mad at science because it proves that it makes no difference. But I don't know. Maybe someone could alert them. Maybe, there's a lot going on. I'm sure there's a lot of injustice in Indiana like there is everywhere else. Maybe their hands are full and they maybe need to be reminded, and other people need to be reminded and just keep it up there because, everything, the attention on Delphi, in my opinion, is why they have somebody. Whether if they circle back, it's why they have somebody. Let's put that spotlight on Flora. Let's not wait till Delphi is down because they have a guy. If there's more people, whatever they're going to do, they're going to do. Get that spotlight on Flora. I was talking to someone today. I said, that's the idea. And just, hey, look, what do you want us to do? Call out there. What can I do? What do you need me to do? What can I do to help? So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting too. Yeah. You wish you know everything. I don't know. That's yeah, I've gotten some interesting stuff the last couple of days, but okay, I'm gonna get ready to close this out. I appreciate everyone's comments. I'm gonna keep up a little better with things. I have a couple of slides next time. I'll get more on a steady schedule. I definitely won't be doing anything Sunday, maybe Saturday, perhaps jump through the football games or even Friday night. What's today? Tuesday. Yep, I'm back to work tomorrow. So we'll see. We'll go from there. I hope you figured a couple things out tonight. I hope you got more interested in something that we talked about. And moving forward, we'll really get into more stuff. I haven't even decided what I'm going to do the next episode yet, but we're eventually going to hit deep dive some stuff where we just talk about Flora. We just talk about Delphi. There's multiple episodes there. We're going to talk about Manson one of these episodes. Dave Manson, not a Manson. We're neither of us are Manson fans, but very interested in it. I know a whole lot about Bundy. Richard Ramirez, Kemper, those guys. What was learned from them? We're not admire them for what they did because they were lunatic killers. But what do we learn from them? Their heads almost were like libraries, and we can use what's in that. We could be disgusted about it and just we don't want to talk about them and block them away, or we could learn from them and hopefully figure out something down the line, and all that. So thanks to everyone that came in tonight. I really appreciate it. Last story. So this is probably 2005, 2004, my fire department story. I got hired in 2002, so I'd have been 24 years old back then. We had a lot of flood. And there's rivers, 2 rivers that come to a point right in our downtown area. And one of them is a lower river, and it's the Youghiogheny. We have a marina with some boats and stuff like that, and fingers and poles that you put your boats in, and it's very nice in the summer down there. A lot going on, very cool. But anyways, we have a flood. It's just past winter, about to be springtime. We would get ice jams and we would get all kind of debris. So we would go down in the fire department. We'd have to wear a life vest. Would have our poles and would move like the debris. There'd be big giant trees. I mean, these things would be like friggin' 20 feet long, branches like the tree from Poltergeist. That came in a window. It was like that big. So we'd move these things and would get them out into the stream of the water in the channel, and it would go down to the bigger Monongahela River, which eventually runs into a couple other rivers and then becomes the Mississippi, way down the line. Ohio keeps going in. So anyways, we're able to do that. Well, on each truck, you only had one radio. The deputy chief had a radio, one radio on each truck. For some reason, my guy TJ gave me the radio. So we had a buckle here, a pocket with a snap. You put the radio in, you snap it, it's in. So we have the radio. If we have any calls, I hear it. Here we go. So I'm bending over and I'm moving it, and this snapped everything. The snap pops off. The radio goes in the water. It's like twirling. I could see it. It's twirling down there. And I knew it didn't, but I asked, hey, T, radios don't float, do they? He looked at me he had fear in his eyes. And he says, what do you mean? What do you mean? And I says, man, that thing came right out of my pocket. He's like, you got to be kidding me. He's like, I knew I shouldn't have gave it to you. So I don't even know. Word gets back. We get up there, and our chief at the time, Chief Bray, Freddie Bray, great guy, he comes stomping down. Him was like stone cold walking to the ring. And I'm thinking, oh, he's going to yell at me. He doesn't say a word to me. He looks at TJ and yells at him. What's the matter with you? What would you give him a radio for next to the river? He's not responsible. Why would you give him? That's your fault. Now you guys don't have a radio out there. It's Station 2. So we just didn't have a radio so we could get another one. But anyways, it wasn't my fault because I was not responsible. And some would argue that maybe I still ain't now, but I'm a lot more responsible than I used to be at the very least. But that was the story of the radio at the marina. So I hope everyone enjoyed tonight. Thanks for all the talk. We stayed a little bit longer than I like to, but hopefully we can, get shit done here, huh? Maybe work on something, spread the word, not just for my channel, but what's going on in Flora. And anything you got, I'd love to hear it, any information. So I'll be back soon. I'll let you guys know here in the next day or two. I got a lot of stuff to go through and put a little slideshow together for everybody. So thank you again. And I'm going to be ending here, and I'll talk to everybody soon.